Hi, so welcome. And today I'm very happy to be here with Sanaz Hosseini. She's one of the facilitators in our Dark Woods of Grief community, and she's also a graduating student from our 2024 Dark Woods Grief Tending and Ritual Facilitation Training. And Sanaz, having navigated her own path through grief, she's very passionate about helping others to find their way. She is Iranian, and as an Iranian woman and immigrant, she's faced multiple forms of loss, and certainly what is coined as disenfranchised grief, often without access to resources or community support. And so this journey really taught her how isolating grief can feel and the importance of processing it, and the importance of support. And so over the years, she's learned to channel her grief and to really recognize its transformative power. And now she is helping others to navigate their own losses. Professionally, she has a diverse background that complements her role as a grief facilitator. She's actually a product manager with degrees in electrical and biomedical engineering and management. She's mentored young professionals, as well as volunteered for a suicide helpline, both of which have strengthened her ability to support people during difficult times. Her passion for storytelling, and she's an amazing storyteller. I got to bear witness to that this year, has helped her connect with people on a deeper level and understand the power of shared experiences in healing. And as a facilitator, she strives to create compassionate and supportive space for others, grounded in empathy and enriched by professional and cultural insights. She also teaches yoga and meditation, and currently serves as a peer grief facilitator in Kitchener Waterloo in Ontario, Canada. So thank you so much for joining me here today. Hello.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk to you today. And so maybe we'll just dive right in. We'll go right to the heart of things. And the first question that I always ask people is, how was grief held in your family of origin when you were growing up?
Well, that's a long story, but I can tell you from the cultural background, being an Iranian, we have a specific way of grieving, which is a bit different than the Western culture, but I cannot tell you that it's completely better. Of course, we have rituals that we follow, like the third day, seventh day, 40th day, uh, what we wear, the gatherings, those rituals are really observed everywhere. So
Mm,
if you're born in Iran, you follow those rituals and those ceremonies, which is helpful.
mm,
But then there's the family part that you're asking me. So
mm,
that gets a little bit different. My personal experiences in my family was that you don't grieve.
mm,
So other than the rituals and the ceremonies that you do as part of a culture, you are supposed to do it. I guess we do it because we are supposed to do it. It's been done always like this.
right.
It's expected of us. God forbid if you don't do that, like what are the neighbors gonna say and those kind of things. Then there's the actual part, like closed doors, what happens inside of the home. If you cry, you are labeled as weak. And this is like a general thing.
Yeah.
Like crying labels you as weak, and crying is for women. So
Oh,
then this extends into when you're actually grieving, that you rarely see the guys crying, but women are accepted to cry out loud when these ceremonies are happening. But then the first thing that they do is that people would come to you and they would try to tell you that be strong and don't cry.
right.
So there's like so much negativity around crying. And I can tell you, one of the best ways that I regulate my nervous system is crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
But I've noticed that I have a lot of shame around it. So I don't do that in front of other people. I tend to use that when I'm alone. And also people overreact when you cry, so that's another part of it. Well, it's not accepted, but then it's also they overreact. And a lot of times it's that crying makes them feel uncomfortable. And for them not to sit with their discomfort, then they want you to stop crying. So that's another experience.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that definitely my dad, being a man born raised in Iran, he rarely ever cried. I remember him when my grandma died, and he was devastated. I could see that, but he rarely cried. But definitely, like, yeah, I was really worried for him.
Mm,
I remember that because, yeah, I was 25 or 6 at the
yeah.
time. So,
How did he express, like, how did you know that he was devastated? What kind of did he show?
um, well, body language, facial expression, but not necessarily crying.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
And being quiet, basically not being himself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds a lot like Western culture, but maybe like 40, 50 years ago kind of thing. Like now there's kind of this new age here where it's like slightly more acceptable, but I don't think it's really that much different. It doesn't sound to me. Do you feel like it's
Not really, but the part that is different is really at the beginning, I think we do a better job, like the first 40 days. I think we do a better job
the
because
ritual?
it's really people are around you and you have these rituals that are helpful.
Yeah, what kind of things? I'm so curious.
So, of course, there's like the day off that like what we do is, well, if you're a Muslim, you go to the mosque and then you go um to the cemetery. That part is like the first day, but then the third day you gather around again. There is the normal expectation that people would come to your house and visit you and they bring you things. So it's not like here that they would bring you food. That's what I've seen on TVs, to be honest. That's my experience with the ceremonies here or the rituals here are what I've watched on TV and my rare experience. But they would come and visit you. Like people would keep coming, and it's the norm that they would come to your home and they would visit you. And so then there's another gathering on the 7th, and then there's another gathering on the 40th. And then sometimes these gatherings is not just at home, like you rent a bigger venue, people gather, there's like a ton of people, but there's ongoing people coming and visiting you. And that was my expectation that that's what I needed to do here. But then I was told that no, you don't go to someone's house. And I was like, oh, okay, cultural shock. I don't know how to do um, grief here. So
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, well, that is amazing. Even just, yeah, just that layer of like recognizing that the gathering is needed and that people need to be around.
the part where the same is after 40th, people forget about you.
Right. 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 Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that part is the same here. Like at the beginning, my understanding is that like you have a lot of support and then it dies down. That's what I hear from the people who are in the grief group, and they say that yes, we had so much help, and then people eventually forget about us. And I was like, oh, this is exactly the same experience on the other side as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And the kind of like 2 weeks off work sort of thing. Yeah, but it's not recognizing the long-term
Yeah.
nature of grief. Yeah. Yeah, and that's like grief from a major loss. Do you feel like other forms of grief are acknowledged in Iranian culture at all, or not so much?
Not so much. We never talk about miscarriages. Never, ever. We don't talk about stillbirths, losing pregnancies. This is like a taboo. Yeah. If you lose a pet, definitely that's not. It is changing though. The fact that we don't have a culture that actually accepts having pet in
Right.
general, that's also delays
Yeah. Yeah.
this. Losing, and there's such an other losses like losing a job, a relationship, divorce. Like none of these are really considered as like a major loss, really.
Right.
But this is, I guess, the same here.
Yeah. True. Exactly. Yeah. Mm, mm, mm. So I'm curious about, you being such a sensitive being and, growing up in that culture where it's like very taboo to cry or be seen, I guess maybe less for women, but still it's a shame around it, right? It's seen as not being strong. So when did you know that you were interested in grief work? What point?
I lost my friend in back in January 2020. And that was a major loss because it was mixed with trauma. The circumstances were really traumatic.
Yeah.
And at the time, I realized that how I dealt with it was not healthy.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But I had the awareness.
Uh-huh.
I became a yoga teacher back in 2019. So when you start your journey into healing, you have awareness. And then you're aware on what you're doing.
Uh,
So that experience got me into thinking that no, I should do better. I can do better. And I want to be able to work with my grief, and I want to be able to be different. So I lost a friend 17, 18 years ago. And at the time, I had no idea what loss is, what grief is. Like, I had no idea. And I dealt with it the worst possible way. I just suppressed everything. I numbed completely.
so
And
pretty.
this time, I
How old were you?
knew
How old were
I
you?
was 26.
Yeah, so pretty young. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it was a very close friend. And also that was a very he slept one night and he didn't wake up.
Oh,
So yeah, that's like you don't expect these things.
okay.
And then that definitely, yeah, I had it came out later, years later, start coming out in like pieces as I immigrated. Then I started dealing with grief of immigration, and then that grief got some sort of like expression. I had opportunity, I got to meet people that they gave me the opportunity to express my grief, and that grief that I suppressed started coming out. But yeah, when in 2020 I lost my friend, I had resources. I knew tools. I knew I could do better, but it was very difficult. And I didn't do like I didn't have also, I can tell you, I'm not good with self-compassion.
What?
I didn't I had higher expectations. Like I was like, I could have suppressed less. I could have
Oh,
done with it better. I did some self-destructive behavior that I would normally never do, but I did those. with full awareness though.
Oh, with that full awareness, right. Yeah. Yeah, well, and I mean, it's interesting, even, like, the languaging that you're using about, like, "I could have done better," like, as though it's, like, something to kind of achieve through, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's self-judgment in that even, but I'm hearing that you wanted I'm hearing the intention behind it was, like, "I wanna have a healthy relationship with grief and with myself."
Yeah. Yeah. So not numbing it, not channeling it in something that is destructive, just being with it.
Yeah.
And before I didn't know what a what tools I could use. Like I didn't even know there are tools. Like I had no idea what is grief. But this time around I knew. That's why I had these expectations from
Yeah.
myself.
Like, "You should be meditating and doing the asanas and breathing through it, Sanaz. Come on."
I honestly, my expectation was that I needed to breathe through it because breath work has helped me tremendously in
Mhm.
many situations. And when that happened, like I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the tools were not accessible to me anymore.
Yes, exactly.
And then I was like, okay, let's just start working on how I'm going to process this and let's in a way do better. But there's this part like now that I'm talking to you about it, um I try to have more self-compassion and less judgment, but believe me at the time there was no self-compassion. At the time it was that like you should have done better. You could have done better. Like that at the time definitely that was my idea that there's this healing goal that like I need to achieve
Yeah.
and I didn't achieve and I failed at.
Mhm.
But now I have a better sense about it. I can't tell you that I'm 100% like, oh no, I know I can I will stop judging myself. I haven't, but I'm better in the
Mhm.
sense that I I can connect with self-compassion. I can let go and but the way I was raised, the way that everything around my world functioned was to achieve and to get better, be better. And it was all about being competitive and achieving, even if it's like achieving in like healing.
Yeah, 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 totally. I'm the most healed.
Yeah.
So good at healing.
There's this
Uh,
goal that you need to always
oh, I'm sure so many people
work on.
can identify with that. I'm sure so many people who are listening can identify with that.
This is exactly how I was raised, and this is how my belief system, my value system. So it doesn't change that easily.
For sure. It's tough, tough, tough cookie. That belief system. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, and so after that event, I realized that there's some truth into if you work with your tools more often, they are more accessible to you when you need them. So they became a second nature.
Yeah, the
So
practice.
that part is kind of like it is as you do more, you get better at it.
Yeah, yeah, or just more access to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that definitely that was one of the things that now I can tell you I can achieve that moment of silence and that peace easier. I know it's there and I can go there. Before I knew it's there, but it was more difficult to go there. So the last year that I lost my dog, I can tell you that the grief is still was very hard. At some points I had to numb, I at some points I didn't want to feel my feelings and like all of those things. But I really didn't do self-destructive behavior.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That
Yeah.
I didn't do. So if you're somebody like me that likes to count, give yourself stars, gold stars for achievement, I
Uh,
did.
uh-huh. And what do you think? But what do you think helped you to be that little bit more present? The like having being more deep in the practices or
I think that's part of it. That's definitely part of it because I kept at taking care of myself, showing up for myself, meditating, doing yoga, and I've been doing that regularly, having therapy sessions. So all of those have helped me.
Mhm. Yeah, I was gonna ask what your practices are. So that kind of thing. I mean, you're coming into your body when you're doing yoga, when you're meditating. Yeah.
Yeah, and more regularly, that definitely, I think, and with more awareness. So for instance, for my yoga practice, at the beginning was just like trying to show up and show up and show up. But then after a while you do see the change. And I think now I'm on the side that I see the change and I see it working. And there are many different practices it's that I follow. And so like I also do qigong. So they all work in a different way. And I believe that I I need to keep at it. I need to continue to have these part of my life. And that way I would have enough resources to be more compassionate and to not harm myself.
Yeah. No, and I really love that you frame it that way as like to have more resources to be able to be more compassionate to myself because it really is that the more present that we are, the more we can notice when we're not being compassionate to ourselves and then, turn it around and bring in that compassion. Yeah. And I definitely saw you do that throughout the year in the training, at least once. I'm sure you were doing it not in my awareness a lot of the time, but I definitely saw you do it at least once. And I'm curious, like, because a part of the training is it's such an interesting process to be in, I think, because it's like you're learning, but you're also in, we're going into ritual, we're doing some deep healing work as well, which is part of the learning, but it's also part of the healing. And I'm curious what it was like, as someone who grew up with this extra strong stigma of like, don't cry in front of other people, to then be in a kind of in a community, in a group where that's what we're doing together. Like, what was that like for you, especially like maybe from when you first came in to like compared to the end of the year? Mhm.
I can tell you that it certainly was difficult to cry in front of other people. But it was easier in front of this group. I'm really grateful that I got to be part of this group of amazing women. They're amazing. And you know that.
Mhm.
It's easier to drop your shield in front of people who understand you, they understand grief, and they also, I don't feel that they have the context of you shouldn't cry. It
Mhm.
could be that because they weren't Iranians. I also didn't have this cultural bias that I shouldn't cry. That
Uh-huh.
could be that, but definitely I can tell you something interesting that got reminded when we were doing in the last retreat, when we were doing the gates of grief. And then we stand up and then we went around. Each gate of grief was a table. We walked to the table and we stayed with that gate of grief. And I started crying and then I hold it back. Habitually, I hold it back. And then I continued. I went to the next gate and I tried to stay focused on myself and not on anybody else, to be present with that gate. And I think the last gate was the ancestors' gate that I was standing there, and all of a sudden I thought, why am I stopping my tears? And thought, this is a safe space. I can cry. And the observation was really interesting to me that even though that these people, I've been with them for 3 rituals, I've been with them for almost a year. I trust them. I know them. I know that I'm safe with them. I know that I can cry in front of them. I've done that many times now. I still, habits die hard, I guess. I was still holding back because I was focused on connecting to that gate, but I wasn't focused on not holding back, like to just be me. And yeah, I caught it like on the last table that I can actually cry.
Yeah.
It is not easy. It is it is not easy to cry in front of people. Definitely it's not easy, but I've been doing that more often. And I get negatively reinforced as well because I've done it in front of people at work. I've done it in front of
Oh.
friends in parties and the terror in their faces.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's another part. Like even though I'm working on it, I get not the positive reinforcement, but the negative one. Yeah. So and it's a now it's a habit to hold the tears back. I I I feel very safe with my husband, but I definitely hold my tears back in front of him too, because I sometimes think that his he would get really worried if he sees me crying, the amount of crying I do. But to me, the crying is healing, but to other people, it's more what's wrong and if there's something wrong,
Yeah, something to fix.
something to fix. So yeah, I do. I still hold back on a lot of crying, but there's sometimes that you just cannot do it. And yeah, there are times that I can easily do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting, like the like you said, the look of terror in people's eyes. Like,
Yeah, people really get scared and concerned. But I've read that this is actually crying is a form of asking for help from your community. That's supposed to give people that sense that, oh, I need to go reach out to her, comfort her, be with her. But now it's mixed with the taboo of you should not, if you're strong, you should not cry. And that's where people get that terror rather than wanting to really helping you be with you.
yeah, it's like what's happening in people's field. It's like they're going into a freeze and fear response in witnessing maybe someone they see or project as being strong, which you are.
Yeah.
I think you're a strong person, but this idea that that it's not that if we like leak out our eyes, that suddenly it's not strong or
And
yeah.
I have received that messaging many times. The last time, I think, yeah, when it was when I was talking to my dad about Polo, my dog, and I think he did mention something along the line of stay strong and don't cry.
Yeah.
And when he said that, in my head, I was like, oh, wrong, 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 wrong.
Yeah.
And the funniest part is that I did not tell him anything. I did not tell him anything. And
Mm.
I thought it's his belief and I am going to respect what he says, but I am going to cry.
Yeah. Yeah. So you decided against education of your dad. I'm not gonna tell him how strong it is actually for me to cry, but I'm gonna honor my own
Yeah, yeah.
way.
One day maybe I can also sit with him and tell him that crying is not being weak.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's so powerful. And it's almost like in a culture that tells you that you shouldn't, it takes like extra strength to be able to allow ourselves to be able to cry because we have to like get over that stigma, which takes a lot of courage, I think.
At some point I thought that there's something wrong with me because I cried a lot. And I thought I'm depressed and I started going to therapy.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
to be fair, I still to this day I when I cry a lot, I do question it. They're like, "Why are you crying so much? Am I supposed to get worried about you right now?"
Hey,
There
self,
is there is
okay? Should I worry, self?
there is a shame. There is a shame in crying, and I think it would take years for it to go away.
Yeah. So you still do you still feel it? Like, did you still feel it towards the end of like at the last retreat you're mentioning, like when we were going around to the different gates? Did you still notice the shame arising as the tears were coming, or
So in the gates, it did. When we went to the truth mandala, no, there was
okay,
no shame there.
beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
And
Mm.
it wasn't the gates because it was like a habitual way of suppressing. And of course, you're suppressing because you're ashamed and you don't want to show it to other people. So,
And
yeah,
maybe there's also like when we go into the truth medal, it's very explicit permission of like this is what you're quote unquote like supposed to do when you go into the truth mandala is emote, cry, or express anger or whatever, right? There's really explicit permission, whereas with the gates, it's not so much like you should cry. It's more just like we're going to do this. I mean, of course, there's always tears welcome in the space, that's kind of the baseline, but you're making me think of like maybe particularly for people who've grown up around more of that cultural stigma, we need like even more permission and like explicit permission of like this is where you can cry, and it's welcome.
definitely, definitely, I would have cried if I cried more easily if I would have seen other people crying.
Uh, uh,
That that does make a difference.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's amazing because I mean, really what you're speaking to is the sense of belonging that is like so fundamental to being human and to feel
Definitely.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that part that you want to be part of the tribe, and that's why you really monitor your reaction.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's like that point of yeah, and a lot of times in healing, when we're healing within a culture that is not a healthy culture, whether it's, parts of Iranian culture, parts of Western culture, whatever, it's like we actually have to like we reach that choice point where we have to choose either to buy into the cultural stigmas or to allow ourselves to heal and have a healthy expression. It's so powerful when you really touch that. It's like, whoa, that's really something. Yeah, yeah.
I wish for people that if they want to cry, they just cry. I wish for a world that let you cry. And it really it's not. Imagine crying at work.
Yeah, like if it was just welcome, you mean?
Yes, like if you cry at workplace,
Yeah,
it's not considered as professional.
yeah, which is so
There's
weird.
another level of stigma there.
Totally, totally. Yeah, it's such a stigma, and I think we've lost track of like recognizing that the more authentic people feel in the workplace and anywhere, the more that they can feel safe to be however they are, you're actually, it's like this weird kind of contrary thing because you're actually probably going to get more like productivity. Not that that would be the goal in creating safe spaces or cultivating safe spaces, but it's like you are going to end up getting more productivity and um more from the people who are working for you if we're thinking from like a managerial position, if people feel safe, you know because when people feel safe they can use more of their brains. It's like their whole brain is online. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess that's why sometimes we create our own jobs, like yeah. It's like grief tending, you can definitely cry.
Maybe that's why I'm getting drawn into this line of work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I just want to touch back on something you said earlier, because in regards to just like being in the community and the grief support work that you're doing in your community in Kitchener Waterloo, like I mean, we know that we're not supposed to go through it on our own. And so like, even hearing you be kind of hard on yourself of like, oh, I could have done better, I had all these tools, but then like you said, it's like when we hit that grief, we lose track of our resources. Yes, the more that we do the practices, daily practice, that kind of thing, the more it's kind of ingrained, and so we can stay with it. And yes, I would agree that that is supportive, but ultimately it's like we're meant to have people around us when we're grieving.
That that is true. When I lost my friend, I did have people around me.
You did or you didn't?
I did
Second
because
second friend, you mean, like in 2020?
yes, in 2020,
Yeah.
because what happened shocked the whole community of Iranians,
Right.
and it brought a lot of people together. It was actually beautiful. There was community. There was a lot of gatherings and honoring, and it was less lonely than when I lost my friend, for sure. When I lost my friend, it was nothing. There was
Oh,
nothing. No,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no acknowledgement,
Yeah.
because well, my when I lost my friend, we were classmates back in university. So my whole touch point with him was university. We spent all of our days together, but at university. And when he passed away, I really didn't have connections with his family. So I didn't get to participate in their ceremonies and rituals really. I only went to the cemetery and the beginning rituals. I didn't participate in the rest of it really because I wasn't part of the family. And I was left alone with my grief, all alone. And my family didn't even recognize my grief. They really did not recognize that how difficult it is to lose a friend. I never got any recognition from anybody around me, like telling me that this is difficult. Like, how are you doing? So nothing. But when my friend passed away in 2020, she was more like a family. So when I moved to Canada, she was part of my family. We spent New Year's together. We spent Iranian celebrations together. So he was part of a family, and there's a bigger community of Iranians. So here in
Canada, where you
Toronto, so there were a lot of people, and because of the tragic situation
Yeah,
on
because there was quite a few people killed, right? Because of the plane that went down.
176 people, 176 people on that flight passed away. I like to say they were killed because, well, they were shot down by a missile. So then there was the Iranian, like the whole Iranian community was showing up
Yeah.
when we had the memorial
Mm.
gatherings. uh, I actually saw one of my friends from elementary school in
Wow.
one of the gatherings. And there's a bigger community of Iranians, and people kept showing up because they were all shaken by this.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, so it was community. There was community. There was a really good sense of belonging, and I'm part of this community. I have the support of people. I have the support of my people.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that that helped you be more present somewhat?
It did help. Definitely. Definitely it helped.
Yeah. And do you think, knowing what you know now, do you think there could have been more support, not just for you, but maybe for the community? Like,
To be honest, I was talking to my friend. Uh, so my best friend married my manager.
okay.
And this friend that I'm talking about was the sister of my manager. So this is all years ago. Now they became really my family. And when they moved to Canada, basically they became my only family because I don't have family here. And I was talking to her, I was telling her that I have been taking this training, that now I'm a grief ritual facilitator. And I've learned this wonderful ritual that I'm going to start practicing. And she said, "Oh, how about we invite the families of the flight and we do this for them?" I told her, "That's an amazing idea." And there is. They've done a lot of work. The community has supported these families. Uh, there has been other resources. So I was taking writing classes, and with an Iranian writer, a famous writer, she helped the families to write their memoir and their memories of their loved ones. So that was another form that the community showed up and helped. And I would definitely love to help this group. It's been 5 years, and because there was a lot of trauma involved, it's very difficult to make peace.
Yeah.
And the families are still in a lot of shock, in a lot of trauma, in a lot of pain, which, I mean, in any circumstances, when you lose your child, you lose your loved one, your wife or your husband, it is traumatic, it is painful, but this is a different level, and it is very difficult for these people to what would be the yeah, to move on or to make peace and
Yeah,
have a little bit of solace.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Some more work is really needed there. Yeah, yeah. What an amazing idea to bring a ritual. Yeah. I could just feel like the potential ripples of that, not only for these people, but like through the culture too, you know?
And it's very different because we are not used to this form of grieving, this
Yeah.
ritual. So it is very different, and I really like that.
Do you think that, like, because I loved in the training you told a story that was an old Iranian story. Do you think that like
From the same writer.
from the same writer? Yeah. Oh, from the same writer as the story that I told?
No,
Or
so the same Iranian writer that I helped the families to
oh,
write their memoir.
oh no way. Oh
So
wow.
Moniru Ravanipur. So she's the same person that I told her story at the retreat.
Cool. Okay. Okay, yeah. So interesting. That's super interesting because she obviously knew that that writing process would be supportive of their grief. So she must have some understanding of grief. And because the question I was going to ask you is like, do you think that the old culture in Iran, like the older culture, would have more ritual around grief or more
They
embodied?
do.
Yeah.
And there are different regions in Iran that they have their own rituals. And I'm not aware of all of them. So one thing is that Iran, each province has its own culture, has its own food, its own dialect, its own clothing. It's like a many countries under one country. And each of these regions, then they have their own rituals and ceremonies. And I've only ever known the ones that are from like my parents or I got to get exposed through friends. And I have not get exposed to the rituals from the south of Iran, which Moniru Ravanipur writes about those, and which I talked about. So there's a section when I was telling the story, there's a section that they gather and they have a ceremony, which is like a grief ritual. And if you recall, well, there's a part that they have like a big centerpiece and there are people around it and the women are scratching themselves crying, and it's interesting to me. That's something that people of the south would do, but people of the north would not do it that way. So part of me wants to go back and try to find these rituals in different parts of Iran and see what was happening. Of
Mhm.
course, these days with modernization and with the shift, people are not following those traditions anymore. And some for very good reasons. And it's amazing that we don't follow certain traditions and certain superstitious things these are good. That's like some movements of it. I'm
Yeah.
really proud that we are not doing those. But then the good parts, we lost the good parts too.
Yeah, kind of a throwing the baby out with the bathwater situation. Like, yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing because I think that's true in so many places, where the modernization is yeah, some of the old ways are being lost and so many of them are valuable, and like you said, others are maybe not so connective, not so generative and good to let go of, but can we filter them a bit. And I love the idea of you going back and just seeing if you can gather, like, do you think that's something you actually would do, is go and visit and travel there? Hmm.
Traveling not, but reaching out to people.
Ah, yeah,
Reaching out to people and asking.
yeah,
more of like a researcher.
Yeah.
At some point in my life, I was a researcher as well. So I can put my researcher hat on and ask people and try to document.
Mm, yeah.
Like there are a ton of things in this world that I wish I could do and I had the time and energy. And
Yeah.
I hope I would get to do this. And maybe along the way I can find people who are doing this.
Mm, totally. Yeah. Well, you have probably a long life ahead of you, so uh, never guaranteed, but but I'm
Oh,
guessing.
never guaranteed.
Yeah, yeah, we know that. S- yeah, but keep me posted. I'm so curious about this. So
And the reason I got drawn into understanding that was because of this training. I got to learn that indigenous people have this wonderful way of dealing with grief and staying present with grief. And another part of it also comes from Africa. And then I also noticed that the African culture get represented in the south of Iran as well because of relative proximity. There is influence. And it got me really into thinking, I'm sure there are other rituals that I've never heard of, and it would be wonderful to gather those and get inspirations from them.
totally. Ooh, I love this. And I appreciate that you mentioned, that that was something that you took from the training, because my next question for you was going to be like, yeah, like what do you feel like if there was like a few things that you most cherish, kind of nuggets that you took from the year of being in the training?
There are many, many, many great outcomes, great takeaways. First, being part of a community, joining a community and becoming part of it, and getting to know amazing people. People that I would never ever connect with in my world, because my world is very limited to where I am, the work I do, and the people I get to interact with are all kind of like similar to me in my bubble.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then I got to spend time with these wonderful women. It is just
Yeah.
extraordinary. And the way that you connect is also very different. It's not that like you go to a yoga retreat and you meet people. You actually connect with these people in a different level. And then learning from them. There's like wealth of knowledge from you and the other facilitators that were there, and then from the participants as well. There's so much
Yeah.
depth that I wish like I could like hold on to all of it, which is impossible.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
And of course, then it's the part that you are part of the ritual, you learn the ritual, you learn how to run it, you get to see it in action, feel it in your body. The best way of learning is really by feeling it in your body. And then also, well, we had the opportunity for my intellectual part that is like not shutting down to also get fulfilled.
Yeah.
So the discussions and all the moments that we had to connect and learn from each other, the resources, the wonderful resources, people I've never heard of, and I got to learn about them through you, the books that you recommended. Not that I read all of them, but I am trying to. But still, there's like a new world. I saw a new world, a completely different world that I never knew it existed. It's definitely, it's like we are all so much in our bubble that we forget that there's another world.
Oh,
There are many other worlds.
there are many other worlds. Indeed, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, wow. It just really fills my heart to hear this. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was an incredible group this year, and it seems like it's always an incredible group on from my end. I'm always like blown away by the people who come for these trainings. But this was definitely a very special group. And yeah, amazing. And what do you think is, I mean, not to put pressure on you in any way, shape, or form, but like, what do you see as being next for you? I know I mean, obviously you're facilitating, you're on our team this year in the second year mentorship. Um, but do you have a sense of where this may take you?
Well, that is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm saying it out loud, it makes it not sound good because I'm putting a dollar value on it, but
Mm,
I do want to continue in this line of work because I see that it can help people. Right now, as you said, I do volunteer as a in a charity here. And the way we run the sessions is not really somatic based. And it is helping for sure because it's the community and we gather together and we support each other. But I see that our format in the dark woods take it a step up
yeah.
the notch to
Yeah.
a better place.
Into the
And
body, right? Yeah.
yeah, when you get the body involved, then it
Mm,
is more effective. And I would definitely want to follow this process and I want to introduce it to this area,
mm,
to the KW region.
yeah.
But I also want to, hopefully, this is my dream, take it around the world. Start
Yeah.
traveling and taking it around the world. And
Beautiful.
you're welcome to join me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we've talked about you have a vision of retreat too, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely retreats are one of the things I want to do because it gives people an opportunity to dig deep and be fully present. Right now, when we have an hour session, I I'm finishing work and I'm running around and I
Yeah.
give myself to the place. Actually, it's 2 hours. It's the one that we do in person. It's 2 hours, but still, you're still in your headspace of work and life.
Yeah, totally.
And the retreat space would give you a different way of sitting with your grief and working with your grief. And I
Yeah.
feel that's the ideal way of doing it. And that's why I'm drawn into doing that 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 style of work. Hopefully people get to spend some time and be able to show up for themselves in longer format. But I do also see the benefit of regular,
Totally.
shorter practice as well.
Yeah, it's like you were talking about with the yoga and the breath work, it's like that regular practice kind of builds a certain kind of strength, and then the retreats kind of you can like go deeper and kind of come to a new level with things, I think. So I think you're right for sure. And yeah, I totally see you doing both, and I'm so happy. I know you're going to come and assist at one, maybe more of the retreats this year. And yeah, I think it's coming, and it's a little bit at a time, and holding the vision. And I'm so excited to get to work with you more, and also to see what you do over the coming years, what comes from.
Thank you. Thank you. And I part of my vision is definitely we go somewhere in the world and we are going to run a retreat together. That's definitely part of
I'm
my
in.
vision.
I'm in for sure. Let's do it. Yeah, beautiful. If there was one thing that, like, if you were getting to actually speak directly to someone who's like considering doing the training this year, or maybe they're listening to this podcast for 2026 at this point, but what would you say to them if they're kind of like on the fence? They're like, oh, maybe I should do it, but I'm not sure, feeling maybe afraid or whatever. What would you say to them?
Take the leap. I certainly did that, and I do not regret that. I am a type of person who overanalyzes pros and cons of everything. And well, we all wish that we had unlimited funds and unlimited resources, but we don't. So because I grew up in a way that I needed to really choose perfectly, so I really spent time in like thinking about all the different aspects when I make a decision. But I did not do that for this one.
Yeah,
I
you just pretty quickly. Yeah.
I made the decision and I do not regret it for it. If I never regretted it, even for like a 1 second, really.
Hmm.
Even though that we had ups and downs, and even though that there's always challenges when you work with a group of people with a topic that is heavy, but I never regretted my decision ever. And this is beautiful, and this is something amazing that they would be really happy if they're part of this.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I remember when because I think it was within a couple of weeks, hey, from when we spoke. You'd seen it and we spoke, and then you were like, okay, I'm in. Yes.
Yeah, because I saw the ad on Instagram.
Right.
The wonderful
Wonderful.
algorithms
The
sometimes
wonderful algorithm.
work for the best. And in no time, I was ready. Like I knew I was ready.
Yeah.
And I just needed to trust my gut. I
Hmm.
trusted my gut. I usually don't do that.
Yeah, and because yeah, I mean, it did take you 2 weeks. So in that process of like when you were deciding how, like, what helped you to connect with your gut and to be able to trust it?
One video of you on Instagram.
Well, which video?
Uh, I don't exactly recall what you were talking about, but you were talking about Gaza and you were talking about Palestinians. And that really resonated with me. At the time that nobody cared about them, at the time that like everybody was like, okay, move on. The world didn't care about any of these people. You, as well, I have to say it this way, but as a white person, you cared about these people. And that really resonated with me. That really made a huge difference because my heart was really in breaking for these people. Nobody is really helping them. Nobody is still helping them. And even though there's a ceasefire, but still, like, where are we? It just yeah, it breaks my heart for what these people are going through. And I've had many, many Palestinian friends. I've had many. And I've had Israeli friends as well. But the level that what they're going through is just so horrendous.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that really did make a difference in my decision because I'm like, if she's talking about what nobody else is talking, and this is like my place, this is where I really need to be.
Oh, that's amazing to hear that. I mean, and it's so interesting too because like I think like there's a lot of people out there who are running businesses who are like, oh, well, I'm not going to talk about anything political because I don't want it to affect my business negatively. And I think this is just like such an amazing example of like when we're authentic and we're true to ourselves and to what we actually feel and believe and are willing to take a stand for that, then it actually draws the right people, to us, not the other way around by any means. So I didn't know that. So I love that you shared that to me with me.
I think I mentioned it to someone, but not to you.
I mean, I don't care either way. I'd still be talking, whether, whether it's drawing the right people to me or not. I'm still going to be talking about this stuff, but it's cool to see that, as like an example for people who are afraid to stand up and speak, It's like,
Especially in that climate. So it was January and the whole event started back in October. So it was really fresh and not that many people at the time were really talking about it.
right.
It was huge and it was really affecting me.
Same.
And it's the same because I see that a lot of bad things happens to the Iranian community and nobody cares about the Iranian community either. And that's where I see that a lot of my Iranian friends were saying that you are talking about Palestinians. What about Iranians? I'm like, there's no competition who has it the worst.
Not right now. Yeah.
And the fact that the world doesn't care about Palestinians is going to be the world doesn't care about Iranians, the world doesn't care about indigenous people, the world doesn't care about black people. It's the
Exactly.
same.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, for me with my ancestry, it was the world doesn't care about Irish people, the world doesn't care about the medicine people, the old medicine people of Europe, So I really I personally identify with that, personally ancestrally, but also just like I want to live in a world where people are kind to each other, it doesn't matter where you're from or what you look like. It's like we need to be kind to each other because we're all woven together. I really see that we're all woven together. Nobody's going to be happy and truly free if there's this immense cruelty that we're just allowing to pass. Yeah.
And I agree with you. You're saying it very eloquently, but definitely we are all connected. That's one thing I have no doubt of.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean that's where I see the group that this work that we're doing is so powerful because it helps people really understand how connected we are when we witness each other, like seeing we just had a retreat this weekend, and there was actually a black woman there who at one point she had her luggage hadn't been didn't got lost, and at one point she was going to leave the retreat because she had heart medication in the luggage. And so she came, so I was like, okay, well, I can't argue with that, right? So but at least come in and say bye to the group because I'm sure they're going to want to, they're going to be affected by you leaving. So she comes in and tells the group, and literally the whole group, this was the Sunday, so we'd already been together for Friday nights, all day Saturday, done the ritual. This is Sunday morning. The whole group is like, no, you can't leave, we are going to get you your luggage. They're like, stop the ritual like right now, like we can't go on without you. And it's like that's what happens when we do this work together, is there becomes such a love, such a bond for each other, no matter where you're from or who, what your story is. It's like we just see each other on this deep level, and it's like I got your back. You suddenly have each other's back, because of the, like you spoke about with the cohort that you were with too. It's like you just connect with these people on such a deep level. So
And I really, really hope that I would see more people of color joining such trainings. And it is harder for us to show up for other people because we need to first show up for ourselves. So it is harder, I understand, but I really hope that more of us would join these circles and these groups and learn to hold space and help
yeah,
each
same.
other.
Yeah, same. No, I really want that too. And that's one of the reasons why I do offer the BIPOC scholarship places. So if you're listening to us right now and you are a person of color and you want to join the training, we do have two BIPOC scholarships available. Well, now one, I guess, because we have already have um somebody who's stepping in. Yeah. Um,
Wonderful.
and if you're somebody who would like to donate to the scholarship fund, we could perhaps be able to provide even more scholarships or partial scholarships to.
I can tell you that was when I got this a scholarship, that was the first time I was happy that I am not
Oh,
white.
oh,
I can tell you there's a lot of grief around the skin color, and there's a lot of grief about being an immigrant. And that was the first time that I was like, oh, I'm actually
benefit.
benefiting.
Uh,
It was beautiful to me, to be honest. It was like, "Oh, I actually feel good for once."
oh, yeah. Well, I don't want to say I'm so glad because I'm not so glad that that's, one time of many times where you didn't feel that. But I am also so glad to, be able to have offered that to you. And you brought so much really to the group. Um, yeah, and I really just see more and more. It's almost like every time I talk to you more and more, there's like this medicine that you bring, that you are bringing and that you're going to bring, it's gonna only grow, and really be something very significant in the world. And I'm just so grateful to be able to support that in any way that I can. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any last words that you'd want to leave people with before we complete today?
I think what I want to share as the last part of this talk is the importance of gratitude.
Mm.
I start my sessions with asking people to share gratitude. And I learned that through Darkwoods, that we talk about gratitude and what we are snuggling with. And I've noticed so many people struggle with the gratitude part. And if we can do one thing, is that to connect with that gratitude, even though that we are sometimes drowning in our grief, it's possible to connect with your gratitude. I've been lucky that there were two amazing women who taught me 7, 8 years ago what really this practice is. And it has changed me. And I really hope that other people can connect with that gratitude as well. I and I say that because when I tell people, tell me what you're grateful for, there are many times that people pass or they say that there's nothing in their life that they're grateful for. And I want to challenge them to see different, to think different about it. And I understand their depth of grief, but there's always something you can be grateful for.
100%. Yeah, I really, really agree with that. And it's such a powerful practice. And it's like, I used to have this close friend who struggled with depression. He'd be so depressed he couldn't think of anything. And I'd be like, "What about that? Your like toes aren't being sawed off right now? Like let's be grateful for that. No one's sawing off your toes. Like awesome." Because really, like when we think about what's happening in the world right now, like there are people who are going through immense suffering, and I'm not talking about the emotional suffering. I'm talking about like physically inflicted suffering that is being done. And so when we have the space to even be able to take a breath and contemplate gratitude, you know, that in itself is, I think, something to be grateful for. Yeah.
Yeah, it does break my heart when people tell me that they don't have anything.
Yeah. You know,
And
the good feedback.
I
Yeah.
really wish for them to. I really wished I had this magical one that I could help them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do. And you can if they say yes, you know. And now you do, you know, you really do. Yeah. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that you bring in the gratitude at the end of our conversation. It's so important. And I would like to complete just with sharing gratitude. I'm so grateful that you join us today on the podcast, and just so grateful to know you and to have you be a part of our, you know, team and community. Um, and may the work that we do together, may this words that we share with people here today benefit all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May we all recognize our liberation together. Thank you so much, Sanaz.
Thank you.